"Officer, you are making this worse than it needs to be." Monica Hayes said it so calmly that the whole dugout went silent before Officer Travis Cole even realized the children had stopped breathing around him. His hand was locked around her upper arm, firm enough to steer her away from the bench, but Monica did not pull back, did not raise her voice, did not give him the reaction he seemed to be waiting for. Behind her, 12 kids in blue baseball jerseys stood frozen along the fence at Riverside Baseball Field, their cleats buried in red Georgia dirt, their gloves hanging uselessly from small hands. A baseball rolled slowly across the chalk line near home plate, tapping against the chain-link fence with a soft hollow sound that somehow felt louder than the officer's radio. Cole leaned closer, eyes narrowed beneath the brim of his patrol cap. "Ma'am, you do not get to decide how this goes." Monica looked at him, then at the children, then at the parents gathering near the bleachers with phones rising one by one. "No," she said. "But you do get to decide whether you follow procedure before you embarrass yourself in front of a field full of witnesses. If you believe stories about dignity, truth, and justice still matter, subscribe now, because what happened on that baseball field became the kind of lesson no one there ever forgot." The afternoon sun sat low over Macon, turning the outfield grass gold and throwing long shadows across the bases. Monica had arrived 40 minutes early, just as she always did. She wore a gray athletic jacket, dark jeans, worn training shoes, and a faded baseball cap with no logo except a small stitched star on the side. Nothing about her said federal instructor. Nothing about her said she had spent years teaching agents how to read danger before danger announced itself, how to slow a situation before pride turned it into a mistake, how to separate suspicion from evidence under pressure. To the kids, she was Coach Monica, the woman who taught them how to plant their feet, keep their eyes level, breathe before swinging, and never let one bad inning tell them who they were. In her backpack near the dugout bench were the field permit from the Parks Department, the schedule for the free youth clinic, a clipboard with emergency contacts, and a federal training credential tucked inside a zippered pocket where she always kept it hidden during community events. She hated leading with authority. Authority changed the room before people had a chance to show their character. That was why she came in plain clothes, carrying bats, water bottles, and sunflower seeds instead of titles. But someone had called the police. The field manager, a nervous man who watched from behind the concession stand window, had decided she looked like she did not belong near a reserved field. He had not asked for her permit. He had not read the email confirmation taped to the dugout clipboard. He had seen a black woman organizing children near a public field and turned uncertainty into accusation. Officer Cole arrived ready to believe him. His partner, Officer Brian Whitaker, stood near the first base line, younger, quieter, eyes moving from Monica's face to the clipboard clipped to the fence. He had seen the printed reservation. Monica saw him see it. Still, he said nothing. Cole guided Monica another step from the dugout. "Hands where I can see them." A boy near the bench, Marcus, small for 12 but fierce-eyed, stepped forward. "She did not do anything. She is our coach." Monica turned her head slightly. "Marcus, stay with the team." Her voice softened for him and hardened again when she faced Cole. "Call the Parks Department. Check the permit. My name is on the reservation." Cole gave a short laugh meant for the parents as much as for her. "Anybody can claim a field." Monica's eyes did not move. "And any officer can verify one." The wind pushed dust across the baseline. Somewhere beyond the fence, a car door opened. Then another. Monica heard engines before anyone else noticed the 3 black sport utility vehicles turning into the gravel lot. The 3 black sport utility vehicles had not reached the fence yet, but Monica heard the rhythm of their tires on gravel and knew exactly who was inside. She kept her eyes on Officer Cole because sudden attention in the wrong direction could turn his confusion into a new excuse. That was something she taught every class, whether the students wore federal badges, tactical boots, or cheap youth league cleats. The first skill in any tense moment is not strength, it is control. Dust lifted behind the vehicles in a soft tin cloud, drifting across the parking lot beyond right field. Parents began turning their heads. One of the boys whispered, "Who is that?" Marcus did not answer. He was still watching Monica's arm, watching the officer's hand, watching the way adults could make a child feel helpless by pretending not to hear the truth. Monica felt that more than she felt Cole's grip. She had built the clinic for kids like Marcus, kids who had been told in 100 small ways that the world would always question their place before it questioned its own assumptions. "Officer Cole," she said, voice low enough that he had to focus to hear it, "you have a clipboard on that fence, a permit in my backpack, and a Parks Department number printed at the bottom of the reservation. Use one of them." Cole's jaw worked once. "You keep giving orders like you are in charge." "No," Monica said. "I keep offering you exits." Officer Whitaker looked at the clipboard again. The paper moved lightly in the wind, held by a silver clip against the chain-link fence. "Field reservation, Riverside Baseball Field, Youth Safety Clinic, Monica Hayes." The words were large enough to read from where he stood. He swallowed, then took a half step toward it. Cole saw him move. "Whitaker." The younger officer stopped. Not because he had changed his mind, but because fear had touched the back of his neck. Monica recognized that too. Fear of a senior partner. Fear of becoming the problem. Fear of doing the right thing 1 second too early. She had seen recruits freeze for the same reason in federal training rooms, standing over simulated decisions while a clock counted down and everyone waited to see whether they would protect procedure or protect pride. The sun dipped lower, warming the edges of the dugout roof. The smell of cut grass mixed with clay dust and concession stand grease. A metal bat leaned against the bench where Monica had placed it beside a mesh bag of baseballs. Her cap shadowed her eyes, but not enough to hide the calm in them. Cole mistook that calm for defiance. "You are being detained until we sort this out." Monica looked toward the children. "Then sort it out correctly." He reached for the cuffs on his belt, not fast, not dramatic, but enough for the field to go breathless. Several parents spoke at once. "Come on, officer. Check the paper. She is the coach." Cole raised his voice over them. "Everyone stay back." Marcus stepped forward again before he could stop himself. "She teaches us how to stay calm. You are the one not staying calm." The words landed with the clean honesty only a child could deliver. Monica turned sharply enough to stop him with her eyes. "Marcus." He froze, tears bright but unshed. "Back to the bench." He obeyed, but his face had changed. Something had been taken from the afternoon, and Monica knew no apology would fully return it. Cole secured her hands in front of her instead of behind her because the crowd was watching and because some part of him still wanted the scene to look reasonable. Monica did not resist. She lifted her wrists, let the metal close, and looked across the diamond where the chalk lines glowed white against red dirt. Her father's voice came back from a long-ago backyard in Savannah, where he had pitched tennis balls to her until dusk. "Never let someone else's fear teach you to hate your own calm." The sport utility vehicles stopped near the gate. Doors opened in sequence. Men and women stepped out in training gear, not rushing, not shouting, moving with the quiet coordination of people who knew what discipline looked like. Cole glanced over, annoyed. Whitaker stared. Monica heard one of the agents call from beyond the fence, clear and stunned, "Instructor Hayes." The whole field seemed to stop around her name. The name crossed the field cleanly, cutting through the dusty air, the murmuring parents, the soft rattle of the chain-link fence, and the shallow click of the cuffs around Monica's wrists. Instructor Hayes. It was not loud, but it carried the kind of authority that did not need volume. Officer Cole turned toward the gate with irritation first. Then confusion. A tall federal agent in a Navy training jacket stood just outside the fence, his credentials clipped at his chest, his eyes fixed not on Cole but on Monica. Behind him, 8 trainees stopped in a loose line beside the black sport utility vehicles, their faces shifting from surprise to controlled concern as they processed what they were seeing. Monica did not answer immediately. She watched Cole instead. She wanted him to feel the moment before she named it for him, because the truth had been available long before the vehicles arrived. It had been on the clipboard. In the permit. In her voice. In the children telling him she belonged there. He had simply refused every ordinary door until Power arrived wearing something he recognized. The agent at the gate lifted his hands where everyone could see them, calm and deliberate. "Officer, my name is Special Agent Daniel Price. We are scheduled here for a community safety demonstration with Instructor Monica Hayes." Cole's mouth tightened. "This is a local police matter." Agent Price looked at Monica's cuffed wrists, then at the children, then at the printed permit clipped to the fence. It became more than that when you detained our instructor during an authorized event. Whitaker finally moved. He walked to the clipboard and took it from the fence, reading it fully this time. The paper trembled slightly in his hand, whether from wind or guilt, Monica could not tell. "Cole," he said, voice low, "her name is on the reservation." Cole did not look at him. "I said stay back." But the command had lost its weight. It fell flat into the dirt between them. Monica turned her head toward Whitaker. "Read the second page." Whitaker flipped it over. His eyes widened as he saw the attached agenda: Federal Field Judgment Outreach Demonstration, Youth Safety Clinic, Instructor Lead, Monica Hayes. Under that was the agency liaison number, the Parks Department approval, and the city stamp dated 2 weeks earlier. A parent near the bleachers let out a long breath. Marcus wiped his face with the heel of his glove and stared at Monica like he was watching the world rearrange itself into something fairer, not fully fair, but fairer than it had been 5 seconds ago. Cole's radio crackled. Dispatch asked for a status update after receiving multiple calls from the field. He pressed the button, his voice carefully flattened. "Stand by." Agent Price entered through the gate with slow, respectful steps, stopping several feet from Cole and Monica. No crowding. No threat. Just presence. "Instructor Hayes trains federal agents in de-escalation, situational awareness, and threat assessment," he said. "She also teaches us that the first failure in the field usually happens before anyone touches a radio. It happens when someone stops observing and starts assuming." The words settled over the diamond. Cole's face reddened, but he still reached for one last piece of control. She refused instructions. Monica looked down at the cuffs, then up at him. "I refuse to let your assumptions become the only record." Whitaker's jaw tightened. He held up the permit toward Cole. "We need to release her." Cole glanced at the phones, the agents, the children, the field manager hiding near the concession stand. The afternoon had turned against him without raising its voice. Monica's calm had outlasted his certainty. Agent Price looked at Whitaker. "Officer, preserve your body camera footage." "All of it?" Whitaker nodded. "Yes, sir." Cole snapped, "He does not answer to you." Monica spoke before Price could. "Today, he answers to the truth." A breeze moved across the infield, lifting a thin veil of red dust around their shoes. The baseball that had rolled away earlier rested against the fence, still and waiting. Whitaker stepped closer with the key in his hand, and this time, he did not look at Cole for permission. Whitaker's hand was steady when he unlocked the cuffs, but his face was not. The small metallic release sounded across Riverside baseball field like a verdict spoken too softly for anger and too clearly for denial. Monica brought her hands forward slowly, flexing her fingers once, then lowering them to her sides. She did not rub her wrists. She did not look wounded for the cameras. She stood in the red dirt with the same posture she used in federal training rooms when a recruit made a mistake. Serious enough to teach everyone else. Officer Cole watched the cuffs open as if the action itself had betrayed him. "You are making this look worse," he muttered toward Whitaker. Whitaker looked at him, finally, fully. "No. It already was." The words were simple, but they changed something in the younger officer's shoulders. Agent Price stepped closer, still careful to leave space. "Instructor Hayes, are you all right?" Monica turned her hand's palm up for one brief second, checking the feeling in her fingers, then nodded. "I am able to continue." "That was not what I asked." His voice softened, and for the first time all afternoon, something almost tired moved behind Monica's eyes. She looked toward the children before answering. Marcus stood near the dugout rail, clutching his glove against his chest, his face caught between relief and confusion. The other kids watched her like one wrong expression from her could decide whether they felt safe again. So Monica gave them the truth in a shape they could carry. "I am disappointed," she said. "Not broken." Agent Price accepted that with a small nod. Cole shifted near the baseline, trying to reclaim the scene through paperwork. "We received a trespassing complaint." Monica turned to him. "And you received proof that the complaint was wrong?" "Not at first." "At first, you received a black woman, a youth team, a permit on a clipboard, and children telling you I was their coach." You chose which part to believe. The field went still again, but this time it was not shock. It was recognition. The parents heard it. The agents heard it. Whitaker heard it most of all. The field manager, who had been half hidden by the concession stand, stepped out with his cap in both hands. He was a thin white man in his late 50s, face flushed, eyes darting between Monica and the officers. "Coach Hayes," he said, his voice weak. "I did not mean for it to go this far." Monica looked at him over the dirt between them. "How far did you mean for it to go?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. There was no safe answer. A bad assumption always wants a soft landing, but Monica had learned long ago that softness without truth only teaches harm to return politely. "You had my reservation," she said. "You had my phone number. You had parents here who knew me. You chose a patrol car before you chose a conversation." His shoulders sank. Cole gave a frustrated breath. "Are we done here?" Agent Price turned toward him. "No. Your supervisor has been notified. Your body camera footage needs to be preserved. The Parks Department will provide the reservation records, and my office will document the interruption of a federal outreach event." Cole stiffened. "Federal outreach? This is a baseball clinic." Monica finally reached for the ball resting against the fence. She picked it up, brushed red dust from the seams with her thumb, and held it at chest height. "That is exactly why it matters," she said. "If children only meet authority when it is suspicious of them, they learn to fear the people who claim to protect them. Today was supposed to teach something different." Marcus stepped closer, stopping when Monica raised two fingers gently, their signal for wait. She looked at the team. "Everybody take a breath." The children obeyed. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. The agents did it too, almost automatically, trained by her voice. Even a few parents followed. Whitaker lowered his eyes as the field breathed together around the mistake he had helped allow. Monica turned back to him. "Officer Whitaker, read the permit out loud." Cole snapped, "That is unnecessary." Monica did not look at him. "It is necessary for the children." Whitaker unfolded the paper, his voice uneven at first, then clearer as he read her name, the field number, the clinic time, the city approval, and the federal liaison line. Each word returned a piece of dignity to the place where it had been taken. When he finished, Monica nodded once. "Thank you." He swallowed. "I am sorry, Coach." She held his gaze. "Do not spend your career apologizing after silence. Spend it interrupting what you know is wrong." Beyond the fence, Cole's supervisor's cruiser turned into the gravel lot. No siren. No rush. Just consequence arriving under the low gold sun. Monica tossed the baseball lightly to Marcus. He caught it against his glove with a clean pop that echoed across the field. For the first time since the officers arrived, the children smiled. The supervisor's cruiser rolled to a stop near the gravel gate, and the field did not cheer. It waited. That was the strange power of the moment now. No one needed noise to understand that the shape of authority had changed. Sergeant Helen Morris stepped out in a tan uniform shirt and dark sunglasses, removing them as soon as she saw Monica standing on the first base line with the children behind her and federal trainees along the fence. She took in the scene quickly, the permit in Whitaker's hand, the parents recording from the bleachers, the field manager staring at the dirt, Cole standing stiff near the dugout with his confidence reduced to a thin mask. "Officer Cole," Morris said, "step away from the field." Cole's face tightened. "Sergeant, this has been blown out of proportion." Monica watched Morris's eyes move to her wrists, then to Agent Price, then to the clipboard. "That will be determined by the record," Morris said. "Not by your comfort with it." Cole looked as if he wanted to argue, but the presence of the federal agents, the parents, and the children had left him with no clean stage. Morris turned to Monica. "Ms. Hayes, I apologize for the interruption." Monica held the baseball glove Marcus had handed back to her and felt the leather warm from his hands. "Sergeant, I appreciate the apology. But this was not just an interruption." Morris nodded once, accepting the correction. "You are right." That answer mattered because it did not try to shrink the harm into a scheduling problem. Monica glanced toward Marcus and the team. "These children came here to learn confidence. They learned what it looks like when adults ignore evidence. The sergeant's expression changed, not dramatically, but enough to show the sentence had reached her. Then we need to make sure they also see what accountability looks like. Agent Price stepped forward and handed Morris his card. My office will provide documentation of the scheduled outreach demonstration. We are also requesting preservation of all body camera footage and dispatch audio. Morris accepted the card. Understood. Whitaker cleared his throat. Sergeant, I need to make a statement. Cole's head snapped toward him. Brian, think carefully. Whitaker did. The whole field seemed to feel him doing it. He looked at Monica, then at the kids, then at the permit still open in his hand. I saw the reservation before the cuffs were used, he said. His voice was not loud, but it held. Coach Hayes asked us to verify more than once. I should have intervened sooner. Cole stared at him with disbelief, as if truth were betrayal. Morris looked at Whitaker for a long second. You will put that in writing before the end of shift. Yes, Sergeant. Monica gave no sign of approval, but Marcus smiled a little, and Whitaker saw it. Sometimes the smallest witness becomes the heaviest judge. Morris turned back to Cole. You are relieved from this call. Return to the cruiser. Do not discuss the incident with witnesses. Cole's mouth opened, then closed. He looked toward Monica, searching for an enemy he could understand, but she gave him no anger to fight. She only said, power means nothing if it cannot recognize truth. The sentence landed across the red dirt, past the dugout, into the parents, the children, the agents, even the field manager who lowered his head as if it had found him too. Cole walked toward the cruiser, slower than he had arrived, the radio on his shoulder suddenly quiet. The children watched him go, and Monica knew this was another lesson, one no coach wanted to teach but every child needed to see clearly. Accountability did not always arrive with shouting. Sometimes it arrived with a supervisor's order, a written statement, a preserved recording, and a person who finally stopped being believed simply because he sounded certain. When the cruiser door closed, the field breathed again. Agent Price looked at Monica. Do you want to cancel the demonstration? Monica turned toward the children. Marcus still held the ball against his glove, waiting for her answer like the whole afternoon depended on it. The sun had slipped lower now, coloring the outfield fence amber. Dust floated in the light. Parents stood silent, unsure whether to pack up or stay. Monica walked back to the dugout and picked up her clipboard. Her hands were steady. No, she said. We continue. A few children straightened. Line up on the first base line, she called, her voice returning to its coaching rhythm. Agents with them. Parents, you are welcome to watch. The federal trainees moved without hesitation, spreading among the kids with quiet respect. Whitaker remained near the fence, still on duty, still ashamed, but listening. Monica stood in front of the team, the baseball field behind her glowing in the late afternoon. Today's lesson changed, she said. Before we talk about throwing, catching, or field awareness, we talk about judgment. Not the kind that decides who belongs before asking questions. The kind that slows down long enough to see the truth. Marcus raised his glove. Coach, does being calm always work? Monica looked at him, and the ache in her chest softened into something honest. Not always, she said. But calm helps you remember who you are while other people are forgetting who they should be. Then she tapped the ball into his glove, and the sound carried across Riverside baseball field like the first clean note after a long silence. The first drill began without a whistle. Monica simply raised one hand, and the field obeyed because the calm in her body had become stronger than the noise that came before it. Children lined the first base line shoulder to shoulder, federal trainees standing beside them in pairs, parents watching from the bleachers with phones lowered now, not because the moment mattered less, but because some things needed to be witnessed with the eyes before they were saved on a screen. The late Georgia sun warmed the grass beyond the infield, turning every dust cloud gold as Marcus tossed the ball back to Monica. She caught it cleanly, held it up, and looked across the group. Situational awareness, she said, does not mean assuming everyone is a threat. It means paying attention long enough to know the difference. Agent Price stood near third base with his arms folded, listening like a student even though he had heard her teach this lesson many times inside federal training centers with clean floors and sealed doors. It sounded different here, beside a dugout where children had just watched adults fail the very lesson she was now giving. Monica pointed to the diamond. A baseball field teaches this better than a classroom. You cannot catch what you refuse to see. You cannot make a good throw if you decide where the play is before the ball moves. Marcus shifted his feet, absorbing every word. A girl named Tiana raised her hand. Coach, what if someone already decided you are wrong? Monica lowered the ball slowly. The question carried the weight of more than the game. A few parents looked down. Whitaker, still near the fence, looked toward the dirt between his shoes. Monica answered carefully. Then you stay truthful. You stay safe. You ask for the record to show what happened. And when people around you see the truth, they have a responsibility not to stand there pretending they did not. The children turned instinctively toward Whitaker. He did not look away. His face tightened, but he accepted the lesson without asking to be spared from it. Monica nodded once, then changed the drill. She placed 3 baseballs along the baseline, each several feet apart. First ball is what you see. Second ball is what you assume. Third ball is what you verify. She pointed to Marcus. Run to the first ball and call out what you know. Marcus sprinted, cleats scattering red dust. Baseball on the line, he called. Good. Second ball. He ran. Baseball near the grass. That is what you see. What are you assuming? Marcus paused, thinking. That it rolled there. Monica smiled faintly. Maybe. Maybe someone placed it there. Third ball. He reached it, breathing hard. Verify before deciding. Exactly. The federal trainees repeated the drill with the children, turning the afternoon into movement again. Throws snapped into gloves. Dust rose. Laughter returned carefully at first, then more freely, like a team learning it had permission to breathe. If this moment touched your heart, hold on to what Monica taught them. Dignity is not the absence of pain, it is the decision not to let pain choose your character. Near the fence, Sergeant Morris spoke quietly into her phone, confirming that Cole had been removed from active field contact pending review and that body camera footage would be preserved. The field manager stood beside her, no longer hiding, ready to give his statement. Whitaker approached Monica only after the children moved into a water break. He stopped several feet away, hands visible, voice low. Coach Hayes, I put my statement on the record. Monica unscrewed a water bottle and took one slow drink before answering. Good. I should have done more. Yes. The word was not cruel. It was clean. Whitaker nodded, accepting it. I am going to carry that. Monica looked at the children clustered by the dugout, Marcus showing Tiana how to adjust her grip. Do not carry it like guilt if guilt only makes you quieter, she said. Carry it like a responsibility that makes you faster next time. Whitaker swallowed. Yes, ma'am. The sun lowered behind the outfield fence, and Agent Price called the trainees back for the final exercise. Monica walked to home plate, brushed dirt from the chalk with the side of her shoe, and looked out at the field. An hour earlier, that same ground had held humiliation. Now it held a lesson, witnessed by children, agents, parents, and one officer learning late that silence has consequences. Monica lifted the bat, not to swing, only to point gently toward the outfield. Eyes up, she called. The play is never over until you know where the truth is. The next ball arced into the amber light, and every child on the field moved toward it, not afraid, not frozen, but ready. The last ball dropped into Marcus's glove with a clean pop just as the sun touched the top of the outfield fence, and for one brief second Riverside baseball field felt whole again. The children cheered, not loudly enough to erase what had happened, but loudly enough to remind the adults that repair did not always begin with speeches. Sometimes it began with a child catching a ball after being afraid to move. Monica clapped once, sharp and warm. That is the play, she called. Again. The team reset, federal trainees spreading into position beside them, every movement measured, respectful, intentional. Agent Price watched from near third base, his face unreadable to most people, but Monica knew him well enough to see the anger beneath his calm. He had been one of her first students years ago, back when he was too quick to trust his instincts and too slow to question what shaped them. She had trained that out of him one hard scenario at a time. Now he stood on a children's baseball field watching the same lesson return in public, carried by dust, fear, and a pair of cuffs that should never have been used. During the water break, he approached her near the dugout. "The regional office wants a full report by morning," he said quietly. Monica nodded, unscrewing the cap of a cooler. "They will have it. They also want to know whether the outreach program should continue with local law enforcement attached." Monica looked across the field toward Sergeant Morris, who was interviewing the field manager near the concession stand. Whitaker stood a few yards away, waiting to give his second statement, his notebook open, his shoulders no longer hiding inside his uniform. "It should continue," Monica said. Price studied her. "After this. Especially after this." A line of children passed between them, laughing softly now, carrying paper cups of water. Monica waited until they were gone before she spoke again. "If we pull back every time someone mishandles authority, the only people left teaching these kids about power will be the ones who misuse it." Price's expression softened. "That sounds like you." "It sounds like the work." Beyond the dugout, Marcus was showing another boy how to keep his throwing elbow level. Monica watched him correct the motion with surprising patience, using the exact words she had used earlier. "Eyes level. Breathe first. Verify the throw." It made her chest ache in a way that was not pain exactly. More like hope learning to stand again. Sergeant Morris approached with her notebook closed. "Ms. Hayes," she said, "Officer Cole has been removed from active duty pending administrative review. Dispatch audio, body camera footage, and witness information are being preserved." The field manager admitted he did not check the reservation before calling us. The field manager stood behind her, cap in hand, unable to meet Monica's eyes. "Coach Hayes," he said, voice thin, "I am sorry. I saw a group out here and thought," he stopped because the rest of the sentence had nowhere decent to go. Monica faced him fully. "You thought before you asked?" He nodded, ashamed. "Yes, ma'am." "Then start there in your statement." He blinked. "Start where?" "With the truth. Not the version that protects your pride." Morris wrote that down. The field manager nodded again, smaller now, but maybe more honest than he had been when the afternoon began. Whitaker stepped closer, careful not to interrupt. "Sergeant, I have the timeline ready." Morris took his notebook, then looked at Monica. He included that he saw the permit before intervening. Monica's eyes moved to Whitaker. He did not look away. That mattered, though it did not absolve him. "Good," she said. "The truth is late, but it is here." Whitaker absorbed the sentence like a sentence of his own. The final drill began as shadows stretched from the bleachers toward home plate. Monica gathered the children, the agents, and the parents along the first base line. She held the baseball Marcus had caught earlier, turning it slowly in her hand, red dust caught in the seams. "This ball does not care what you assume," she said. "It goes where it goes. Your job is to see it clearly, move with discipline, and protect the people on your team." The children listened. So did the agents. So did Morris. Even the field manager listened from the edge of the dugout. Monica looked at Marcus. "What is the first rule?" He stood taller. "Breathe before you react." "Second." Tiana answered this time. "Verify before you decide." Monica smiled. "Third." The children looked at one another, then Marcus said softly, "Do not let fear choose your character." The words came back to her in a child's voice, and the whole field seemed to hold them. Monica nodded once, because anything more might have broken the stillness. "That is enough for today." The parents began to clap, not like an audience, but like witnesses. Agent Price joined them. Sergeant Morris did too. Whitaker hesitated, then clapped quietly, eyes lowered. Monica watched the kids run back toward the dugout, their cleats lifting dust into the warm evening air. The field had not forgotten what happened. It had learned something from it. And under the fading Georgia sun, that felt like the beginning of justice. After the parents began gathering equipment and the children drifted toward the dugout, Riverside baseball field settled into a quieter kind of evening. The loudest sound was no longer panic or radio static, but the small ordinary music of a team becoming itself again, gloves dropping into bags, cleats scraping clay, water bottles being capped, parents calling names across the bleachers, a bat rolling once along the bench before Tiana caught it with her foot. Monica stood near home plate with the last baseball in her hand, watching the field empty slowly. Agent Price waited beside the third base line, giving her space because he knew the difference between solitude and abandonment. Sergeant Morris had left to file the first report. The field manager remained near the concession stand, speaking quietly with a Parks Department supervisor by phone, his cap still in his hand as if he had not yet earned the right to wear it again. Officer Whitaker stood near the fence, finishing notes under the orange glow of the field lights that had just flickered on. His cruiser was still there, but Cole was gone. That absence changed the air. Not enough to erase what happened, but enough for the children to stop staring at the gate. Marcus approached Monica last, dragging one toe through the dirt. "Coach." She turned. His mother stood a few feet behind him, one hand on his shoulder but not pushing him forward. "Yes, Marcus." He looked at the baseball in her hand. "Were you scared?" The question was so honest that Monica did not answer too quickly. She crouched slightly, not to make herself smaller, but to meet him where the question lived. "I was concerned," she said. "And disappointed. And very focused." Marcus frowned. "That is not the same as scared." Monica looked toward the fence where the cuffs had been opened, then back at him. "Sometimes fear shows up. Calm is what tells it where to sit." His mother pressed her lips together, eyes shining. Marcus nodded slowly, as if filing the sentence somewhere important. "I want to be calm like that." Monica placed the baseball in his glove. "Then practice when things are easy, so your body remembers when things are hard." Agent Price stepped closer then, holding a folded document. "Instructor Hayes, the office confirmed your report is logged. They also asked whether you want the next clinic moved indoors." Monica almost smiled. No, Price knew the answer but had needed to ask. "Same field." "Same field." Marcus looked up quickly. "You are coming back." Monica's voice softened. "Of course I am. This field belongs to the kids who show up to learn, not to fear." Across the fence, Whitaker heard that and lowered his pen. He looked at the field, then at Monica. "Coach Hayes," he called quietly. "May I say something to the team before they leave?" Monica studied him. The easy answer was no. The safer answer was no. But the useful answer depended on what he intended to carry into the space. "You may speak," she said, "but do not make them responsible for making you feel better." Whitaker absorbed that, then walked to the edge of the dugout, keeping a respectful distance. The children turned toward him. He removed his cap and held it in both hands. "I saw the permit," he said. "I saw enough to know we should have stopped. I did not speak soon enough, and that was wrong." His voice shook once. "You deserved better from us before anyone important arrived." The children did not clap. They listened. That was harder. Marcus looked at Monica, and she gave the smallest nod. Whitaker put his cap back on, but he looked different with it now, less protected by it. After he walked away, Marcus's mother stepped forward and took Monica's hand gently between both of hers. "Thank you for not letting this be the only lesson he remembers." Monica looked at the boy, then at the field glowing under the lights. "He helped make it a better lesson." The mother smiled through tears she did not try to hide. When the last family left, Monica and Agent Price stood alone by the dugout. He folded his arms. "You turned an unlawful mess into a training module." Monica shook her head. "No. The children did. They kept watching after the adults failed them." Price looked toward the empty bases. "And Cole. The record will handle Cole. And Whitaker." Monica picked up the clipboard, sliding the permit back under its clip. "The record will handle him too. But whether he changes is not a record's job." The lights hummed overhead. A night breeze moved over the grass. Monica looked once more at the red dirt where the afternoon had almost broken into something worse, then zipped her federal credential back into the hidden pocket of her backpack. She still did not want authority to be the first thing people saw. But she knew now that sometimes authority had to step forward, not to dominate the room, but to protect the truth from being dismissed by those who refused to recognize it in plain clothes. 2 weeks later, Riverside baseball field looked exactly the way Monica had promised it would look, open, bright, and full of children again. The grass had been cut short, the chalk lines were fresh, and the red Georgia dirt held the warm color of late afternoon sunlight. Parents filled the bleachers with folding chairs and paper cups of lemonade. Federal trainees stood near the outfield fence, not as a show of force, but as volunteers helping kids practice footwork, focus, and safe decision-making. Marcus was on first base, glove open, eyes level, breathing before the pitch the way Monica had taught him. When the ball came his way, he did not freeze. He stepped, reached, and caught it cleanly. The sound of leather closing around the ball traveled across the field like a small answer to everything that had happened there. Monica stood near home plate in her gray athletic jacket and faded cap, watching him with a quiet smile. She still carried the same backpack, the same permit clipped to the same fence, the same federal credential tucked out of sight because she believed children should meet people before they met titles. But this time, no one questioned whether she belonged. Near the concession stand, a new sign from the Parks Department listed reservation contacts, verification steps, and community event procedures. It was not dramatic. It was not emotional. It was a piece of laminated paper on a metal post. Yet Monica understood that some forms of justice looked exactly like that, ordinary, visible, and harder to ignore the next time fear tried to move faster than facts. Officer Cole's review had ended the previous Friday. His body camera footage, dispatch audio, witness videos, and prior complaint record had all been examined. He was removed from field duty and placed into formal disciplinary proceedings that would decide whether he could continue serving at all. He no longer controlled the narrative, because the record had learned to speak without him. Officer Whitaker remained on probationary review, assigned to retraining, community accountability hours, and written evaluation under Sergeant Morris. He had returned to the field that day without a patrol car, wearing plain clothes, standing near the fence with a bucket of practice balls. He did not ask Monica for forgiveness. He did not ask the parents to trust him. He simply helped set up cones, carried water, listened when spoken to, and stepped back when he was not needed. That, Monica thought, was a beginning. Not redemption. Not yet. A beginning. During the final drill, Marcus waved him over. "Mr. Whitaker," he called, "can you roll the third ball?" Whitaker looked to Monica first. She gave no smile, only a small nod. He rolled the ball along the baseline. Marcus ran to it and shouted, "Verify before you decide." The other children repeated it, laughing now, turning the lesson into a chant that belonged to them instead of the fear that had created it. Monica felt something loosen in her chest. She thought of her father in Savannah, pitching tennis balls until dusk, teaching her that calm was not surrender and kindness was not weakness. She thought of the day Cole had looked at her and seen a problem before he saw a person. Then she looked at the children and saw the better ending. They had watched truth get interrupted, but they had also watched it return. As the sun lowered behind the outfield fence, Agent Price approached with 2 paper cups of water and handed one to her. "You changed the program," he said. Monica watched Marcus throw to second base. "No," she said. The program finally became honest. Price nodded. Beyond the fence, the field manager checked the reservation board twice before locking the equipment shed, then waved awkwardly toward Monica. She returned the wave, not warmly, not coldly, just enough to acknowledge that accountability had left room for him to do better. When practice ended, the children gathered at home plate. Monica held up the dusty baseball from that first day, the one Marcus had caught after the field went silent. "Remember this," she said. "Power is not the loudest voice. Power is the choice to slow down, see clearly, and protect what is true, even when pride wants to win." Marcus looked up at her. "And respect first?" Monica smiled then. "Always respect first." The children ran to their parents, gloves swinging, dust rising around their shoes. Monica stayed alone for a moment near the plate, listening to the clean pop of one last ball landing in a glove beyond the dugout. The field was quiet again, but not empty. It held the lesson. It held the record. It held the promise that dignity should never need a badge before it is believed. "So tell me, If you had been standing at that fence when everyone saw the permit and only one officer stayed silent, would you have waited for someone else to speak, or would you have stepped forward for the truth?